Hello.
Hello? Are you there?
Yeah.
Anybody home?
Yeah.
Welcome. This is WTF Stories and Advice. I'm Caroline Cranshaw.
And I'm Daryl Gove.
And we are two hypnotherapists and
Know-it-alls.
Know-it-alls, serious know-it-alls. Love to hear the sound of our own voice talking. And so we also love to give advice and tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah. And we got a cool one today. It's from a guy who's about 30 years old in Australia. And we're going to talk through his problem and then give him some advice at the end. And of course, as an official Kiwi now, as I've got my citizenship. Yay!
Me too.
That's right. Just last week. Congratulations.
Yeah. No, just the other day. Yeah. I'm officially a New Zealander now.
We now get the right to judge Australians and say, look, before even reading the letter, probably that's your problem. So
I would say so. I would agree with that. Yeah.
But let's assume it's something else and give you the benefit of the doubt. So I've got the letter here. Shall I jump right into it?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, good. Okay. So are you braced?
Do I need to brace myself?
Could be.
Okay. I'm bracing myself. I'm braced.
Okay, braced. Good. Okay, so I spent so long thinking I was demisexual, and I may not be. Demisexual.
Like that Demi Moore, but demisexual?
I think it means they only like Demi Moore.
Okay.
So, because you can classify as anything, right? There are people who are only attracted to Demi Moore. I'm sure there are. I remember like years ago, we talked on this podcast about me playing this like video game with a bunch of gays. There's like this little...
The gays?
Yeah, a bunch of gays. There's like this group and they play video games together. And so I used to play online and we'd play for hours at a time and everybody would just get into this big chat. And one guy was going on about being demisexual. And every time we got online, he would say this to me and I never quite cottoned on to what it meant. So I also didn't want to make out in this group chat that I didn't know what it was. So it took me a while to kind of figure out. But I think what it means is that, you know, how people are either attracted to men or women or both, but a demisexual is not attracted to anybody, but they're not asexual because they're not attracted to anybody unless they have an emotional connection.
Oh, so like a woman.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. Like as a woman, could like a guy walk into the room super hot and you have no emotional connection? You go, man, I would like sit on his face.
Oh, yeah. No, that's true. Okay. So you don't feel attracted to anybody physically. It's all about the emotional connection. Is that right?
I believe so, yeah. It's emotional connection, which could in theory be with a woman or a man, but it's more about after the emotional connection comes attraction. Before that, there's none.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if it has to be so black and white either, like there's no attraction, but perhaps there's a spectrum. But this is my understanding. If I don't have this right, please write and let us know what it's like. And he says, I'm always struggling with the aspect of actually just hooking up with guys and thinking that because I don't have an emotional connection, that I just can't enjoy myself. But it's actually something that I think is a little bit more deeper than that. I take time to climax, if you know what I'm saying. Well,
like a woman.
yeah, like a woman.
Yeah.
And if you've been with more than one man, which is probably most of our listeners, then you know that people take different amounts of time to climax. Yeah. There's a spectrum. And some could be more quick. Some could take a long time. That's okay. And if I'm not being stimulated either physically or emotionally at that stage, I get disinterested, if you know what I'm saying. So
he loses his heart on.
I guess that's what he's saying. Yeah. It's better to put it in black and white and then we definitely know. But so your partner's climaxed or you're taking time and you're getting bored and then you lose interest. That makes sense. Yeah. If you're having fun and it's good for you, then probably you don't lose interest. You're like, give me more of this. This is great. So this is where I thought I was demisexual. The guys that I have been with have had no problems. They finish, well, first and foremost, before I even finish that sentence, there's a presupposition there that that you have a problem. And it may not be the case. It may be the other end, that they're just all premature ejaculators. But let's read on. The guys that I've been with have had no problems. They finish really fast. And I'm left wondering when it's my turn. Most guys can't even get me off. And that's funny because I wouldn't normally share that. Most guys finish really fast. Well, you know what? You just must be really good. You're too hot, you're too sexy, you're too good, or you like make them wait for a long time and build up all the tension and tease them until they just like explode when they get the chance. I don't know. What do you think, Caroline?
Well, I mean, they won't even classify someone to be a premature ejaculator if they last 2 minutes and 1 second.
Really?
Yeah. Like anything over 2 minutes, if you're like 2 minutes, 10 seconds, you're considered normal. You're considered average.
So 2 minutes, 10 seconds in the vag, pump in, and you're normal.
Or the ass, or the mouth, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they've measured it
Whichever
in
hole.
Because I imagine the time might differ depending on the hole, because there's lots of different factors, isn't there?
Well, yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I'm guessing your ass.
What's your experience with comparing the vag to the ass, Daryl?
I don't have any. That's why I said I imagine, because I have no idea.
I don't have a lot to contribute to that topic either, actually.
So when they did the study, we don't know, but let's just imagine that it's normal, straight, penis vag sex. Then 2 minutes and 10 seconds is normal, and under 2 minutes is premature.
Yeah. So if you're under 2 minutes consistently, that is considered premature ejaculation. It'd be interesting to know exactly what the percentage of the population. Okay, but I'm getting off track. But
I also wonder if it would be different with gay men, because men in general don't always have the same interest in a long sexual prolonged contact at once. They don't often take, like this guy's mentioning, as much time and care and to build that emotional connection. And sometimes it's more transactional. And whether gay guys would be quite happy with under 2 minutes, boom, boom, done. So it'd be interesting to see how that's different. What do you do then? You do it again. Probably.
Oh, you do it again. Oh.
Or you go and play some video games, do it again. No, I don't know if there's... You're just laughing.
You go and play some video games till you recover and you can do it again. Or if you're like 18, you can do it again instantly.
Yeah, I don't know. I've met enough guys that I resonate with what he's saying. I think a lot of guys just want, like, I'm trying to think of who said this, but they just want to get their end in. They just want something to pork. And
pork. What does that mean? To pork. I've heard the term, but yeah, it's just like, okay.
To fuck. They just want something to fuck.
Gotcha.
And they don't care who it is or what it is. And for that reason, there's a lot of straight guys that will have sex with a man because they're like, okay, there's no women available. Let me just get something to bone. And yeah, so they're like, oh, who's available.
Well, are they straight though?
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
A radio show they wanted me to do the topic on sexual fluidity and how people there's a range, right? And some people are just completely heterosexual. Some people are completely homosexual. And then some people are more fluid and they go back and forth, or they're pansexual and attracted to just people they're attracted to. But I remember asking, and one thing they were interested that they wanted me to talk about is whether they're hearing that a lot of straight men are having sex with gay men. And is this like really true? And so I asked a friend who is a very sexually active gay man. And I said, do you sleep with
I know who it is.
straight men? And he's like, oh, all the time. That's mostly what I sleep with. And I'm like, okay, well, are they actually straight? Like they may identify as straight, but are you really straight if you're sleeping with gay men? But that was like predominantly of who he was sleeping with. I just found that amazing. But it was real hookup situations. So I think, you're not there for an emotional connection. They don't want to take a long time. Are you in public places, possibly? Like, where are you when you're doing these hookups? If it's in the toilets.
I think maybe in the 80s in the toilets. But I think like probably people use apps now to find each other.
But where... Are they they're like, are you really going to invite a stranger over your house to hook up?
Yeah, I think people do that. Yeah. All the time. Yeah. I think it's quite common. I think it is. And I'm not saying that it's good and I'm not saying that it's safe, when I speak to my gay friends who are single, like and a lot of my friends are younger than I am, most of them, they're, very active and often multiple partners. And I remember I was dating this guy once, and his flatmate he ended up moving in with my ex. Long story, but I was friendly with my ex. And my ex phoned me up one day and was like, Daryl, but I hate to be the one telling you this, but that guy you're seeing has like a different guy here every single night. And it was just normal. I went to Australia once, problem starting, and I was staying with my brother, and I was chatting to him, and he goes, I'm worried my flatmate might be a prostitute. I'm like, why? He's like, because he's always got these guys coming around the house and he pays me in cash each week. And so anyway, I got friendly with his flatmate, and we went out like partying together and stuff like that while my brother was away. And this is a long, long, long time ago. But however, it was like, no, he worked a cash job. I watched him go to work every day, come back, always during the working hours of my brother. So my brother never saw him leave or come back.
Yeah.
And he would bring stuff home from work that I knew he'd been there. And yeah, he was active. He just had different guys around. He didn't want to settle down, or he didn't find the right person. And so he would sleep with different guys. So I think that is the culture. When gay men are single, they will sleep with different guys. And actually, it's changed so much to the point where the very few gay men are monogamous anymore. And
were they ever, though?
I don't know. I am. And
you are like the only one I know.
Hopefully my partner is too.
Well, yeah.
But
that's a good point.
But also my brother and his partner in Australia, they're monogamous. They've been together, well, I don't know, 9 years, something like that. And
as far as you know.
No, they've been together. As far as I know, they're monogamous.
As far as you know, that's what I meant.
I certainly understand that's their intention and that's their desire. And I know a lot of people. In fact, I didn't meet any gay people that weren't monogamous until recently. So I don't know. Maybe there's always been promiscuity, of course, but was there cheating? And then separate from that, you've got open relationships. I think it's becoming more and more common. That's my perception.
Well, I think as someone who grew up in San Francisco and basically was raised by gay men, and then went into the hairdressing industry where I worked with 12 gay men and me, no one was monogamous. Like there was a lot of them were in relationships and long-term relationships, like 30, 40 years even. And they were still just having hookups on the weekend and stuff. I think AIDS and HIV really changed a lot. And then suddenly people became a lot more monogamous because of that risk. And then it's interesting with the past few years is they've come out with that drug PrEP. There's a few that then they don't have to worry about getting or transmitting HIV anymore. And so what I'm hearing from a lot of my gay friends and clients is they're not even using protection anymore. And I think like at all, which is to me terrifying because we're having a huge monkeypox epidemic.
Yeah.
And I think part of the problem is like these men have been hooking up free and easy. Everything's been fine. But I'm sorry, but HIV is not the only STD you can get.
Like, it's something that always concerned me if guys didn't want to wear condoms. It's always like, well, hang on a second. Do you think HIV is the only thing? Do you think PrEP is enough to protect you from everything? Well, it's not. And it's really weird that people think that taking a drug that can maybe stop transmission of HIV is enough protection when there has always been a lot of STDs, especially in a community and maybe the community as a whole might not be promiscuous, but there's certainly groups within it that are, and there are people that are within the community, straight and gay, that are promiscuous. And if you're not using protection and you're sleeping with multiple partners, then you're at risk of different diseases. And maybe PrEP coming along has changed that. People feel like, oh, it's easier, it's safer to have multiple partners. I don't know. And maybe things are changing. The people that I got this feedback from were in America, though. So it was the American guys that were all like, what? You're monogamous? That's crazy. Like they didn't understand it. And also I found that if I was dating somebody and they didn't want to be monogamous, they'd be really pushy. They'd be really pushy with me, but this is just your anxieties, not letting people sleep with other people. This is just, and they would not give up. It happened more than once where a guy I was dating that I really quite liked and I thought could go somewhere would say, oh, by the way, I'm poly, or I want an open relationship. And I'm like, oh, that's a shame. That's not for me. Thanks, bye-bye. But they would just keep going, keep going. I'm like, well, thank God I hadn't already fallen for these guys. Thank God I wasn't already head over heels in love, because if that happened, then I might change, because I had to change. If the majority of, let's say, a group, I'm not saying gay people, but let's say society or an age group thinks that that's normal and that's what should happen, then there can be peer pressure as well. Like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you conform to this? Why don't you just let your boyfriend out on the weekend to do what he wants? And it just, for me, I was like, I just got to the point where I just stopped answering. I don't need to justify myself. I just don't want that. It's just not for me. And you find that, thank you very much, but no thanks.
And I think that's the thing is with men, nobody says no, right? Like, except for you, Daryl.
Well, no, it's not a judgment either, like one way or another, positive or negatively. It's people should be able to sleep with who they want and also not sleep with people that they don't want to.
Exactly. And I think if you want to hook up and everyone's fine with that, that's absolutely fine. Whatever floats your boat, as long as it's like consenting adults. But it's interesting because I think that hookup culture really, it's not just in the gay culture. I think it's also in straight culture. Well, polyamory has gotten huge now. Like that is a huge thing. And there was something else. They call it something else as well, where they're not looking for anything serious, or I can't remember. There's some acronym they're using on like the dating sites as well, that it's basically saying looking for non-monogamous relationships. But I think Tinder and all these kind of apps has really created a lot of hookup culture. But getting back to the question, I think there's nothing wrong with having an emotional connection.
Right? That's the whole thing. Like if you require an emotional connection to have pleasure during sex, well, to me, that's great. That's great. Like what you're saying is you want to be bonded with the people that you're swapping saliva with, swapping juices with, that you're actually getting connected to. So my issue with non-monogamy is this. I understand too much neuroscience. I understand the brain. And I understand the cascade of hormones and neurotransmitters that are released when you ejaculate, when you orgasm, when you have sex, when you touch skin to skin, and it forms a bond. Or it's certainly your brain and your body is attempting to bond. But one of the things that I don't think people get is this. If you sleep with someone else, the hormones that you get when you ejaculate and when you have an orgasm and the neurotransmitters, they have two purposes. One is to attempt to bond you to the person you've just had sex with. But another purpose is actually to break bonds with exes, to break bonds with people in the past. And so, like, physically break those bonds inside, like, through fucking with your brain. So if you can manage to maintain a relationship whilst your body and your neurochemistry is actively trying to unbond you, well done. Well done. That takes some good work. I don't want to be in a relationship where my partner is actively unbonding each weekend. I don't want to be in one where I'm actively unbonding and bonding to other people. I think that if I was in a relationship with someone and I wasn't getting that emotional connection and somebody else offered it and I happened to sleep with them, then that would spell danger to my relationship. And so for that reason, I want the emotional connection with the person I'm sleeping with. And that can be hard in this culture. And maybe that's the bigger issue.
Yeah. Well, I think that I know for a lot of women, not always, I don't speak for all women, but I do a lot of sex therapy with a lot of women and men for that matter. But I find the biggest hindrance for women of having an orgasm, and I think for men as well, is the ability to let go, to let your guard down, to be vulnerable. And if you can't be vulnerable, something in you just doesn't allow you to, especially for women, it's a surrender. And I think it's true for men. There is a surrender. Men don't have the same kind of worry about getting pregnant or getting injured as much as women do. But I think I'll get a lot of guys coming to me who've, let's say, recently gotten divorced. They're going out, they're getting back out there, and they're having erectile dysfunction. And they're just freaking out about it. And I'm like, well, tell me how, they've never had it before. And it's like, oh, I went on this date with this woman and tried to hook up and I couldn't get it up. And I'm like, oh, you went on a date? And he's like, well, I went home with her from a pub. I'm like, oh, okay.
Ah.
So you just met some random and you went home with her. You're a bit drunk and then you couldn't get up. Were you really into her? And he's like, well, not really, but I just want to get back out there and I've got to get some numbers under my belt. And it's, well, you're not a robot.
Yeah.
And if you're used to having a connection, well, then of course your body might say no. And I think your dick is a barometer for how you're feeling. And so
yeah.
with this guy, I would say stop doing fucking hookup culture if you're having a problem with it. But that's how like every woman feels the first time normally they have sex with someone. I don't know any women that expect to have an orgasm the first time they hook up with a guy.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Like really don't. That is like, so if that happens, that's a fucking miracle. Either they just are like highly, highly orgasmic and don't need that kind of like emotional connection to get off. Or the guy is just a fucking amazing porn star in bed or something. But otherwise, yeah. And I think that's just like a common occurrence for women. It takes time for them to be able to have an orgasm. Note to guys out there, if you're going home with women and they're having orgasms the first time you have sex with them, most of them are faking it. I would put my money on the fact that 90% of those women are fucking faking it. They really are. And men are like, oh, I can always tell. And I'm like, oh, no, you fucking can't. Women can like fake the contractions and everything of an orgasm. A man cannot fucking tell. So I think it is that.
Good to know.
I know.
No, that's good. Men should know that. They should really know that.
Oh, I mean, I don't know how many straight men are actually continuing to listen to this conversation because we were originally talking about gay sex, but hey, you never know. But yeah, I think it is. You've got to be able to, I mean, the best sex is when two people totally let their guards down and feel safe and can just like actually ask for what they need. Because I think that's the other thing. It's being able to be like, say, this is what I need to get off and have someone there who wants to do that for you. If once the second they come, they're not interested. Well, fuck that person. Number one, they're bad in bed and they're selfish and they should go, just wank.
Fuck themselves. Well, it's. I think you've hit the nail on the head here because when I read the next bit, you'll see.
Oh, you haven't finished reading?
No, that's right. It does seem that he's whether you say it's hookup culture or he's choosing the wrong guys to hook up with. So either or, but so he said before they finish really fast and I'm left wondering when it's my turn. Most guys can't even get me off. And he was, find it interesting to share that. So is it that they can or they don't bother? And he continues. And to make matters worse, I'm averse. So I can do either role relatively well as usual.
Switch hitter. Yep.
Switch hitter.
He can pitch and catch. Yep. Go on. Sorry. Just to clarify that for anyone else who doesn't know what a verse is.
Because he might seem like he's a bottom when he's writing that, but he's like saying, no, like even if I'm a top, as the man gets his job done, he just stays disinterested. He doesn't want to fucking continue. I've yet to meet someone that actually wants to go the distance with me. So there's a few things there that he said there. He stays disinterested. He doesn't want to continue. There's a hormonal thing going on as well. Like men, after they've ejaculated, are meant to like get a bit tired, want to go to sleep. But guess what? If you want to impress someone, if you're really interested in someone and you want them to have a good time and you're not a selfish cunt, then you push through that and you go, let's do you now. It's your turn.
Exactly.
And I've seen that 100 times over on movies, obviously not in real life, with straight relationships with men and women. When every now and then there's the hero of the movie and he turns over and let me do you. And you just see that look of shock on the woman's face mixed with delight because it appears like that's not normal. I work with a lot of guys with premature ejaculation and they're saying how it's causing issues in their relationship. And I say, so what happens after you ejaculate? What happens next? Do you roll over and go to sleep? Are you embarrassed? Do you leave the room? Do you try to get her off? And most of them are like, oh, well, it's over, obviously. And that's it. And I'm like, well, you still have a fucking tongue and fingers. Mm-hmm.
So I said, a woman won't care if you have a dick at all, as long as you can get her off, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just, it's incredibly, most women I don't think would care that much if a guy had some issues of premature ejaculation, if the guy actually made the effort to make them come next. So I think, it sounds to me like he's hooking up with selfish people.
Yeah, it really, really does sound like that. That's what we said at the beginning. Australians. No, just joking. If you're Australian, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
As officially as true Kiwis, Kiwi citizens, we can say that. Even though I
have to
can't even
stop.
do a Kiwi accent.
I didn't know that's what you were trying to do.
Oh. I always sound like a fucking Australian when I try to do a Kiwi accent. I just cannot do it.
So, as a Scottish person who used to take the mick out of English and Welsh, now I've migrated to the southern hemisphere, and that's who I will be making fun of from now on.
Americans, we don't make fun of Canadians. Canadians make fun of us
because you're the bigger partner. So England's bigger than Scotland, Australia's bigger than New Zealand, and both by a lot. USA is bigger than Canada by a lot, like population-wise. So probably that's it. It's like the little brother thing or something. I don't know.
It could be. We make fun of how they say about. But yeah, but here, what I find interesting is everyone asks me if I'm Canadian before they ask me if I'm American. And they go, oh, Canadian? And I'm like, no, I won't be offended. I'm American. Because Canadians get so offended if you think they're American. Like, that is the worst thing you could ever call a Canadian is an American.
That's interesting. I would, because they're from America, the continent as well. So I don't know. But
North America? Yeah. Oh, no. Like, that is just a massive insult. But anyways.
People think I'm going to be offended when they call me Irish all the time, but I'm not offended at all, like ever.
You don't sound Irish at all. How can anyone?
Maybe it's the same. Maybe they guess like they're worried about offending, so they guess Irish first, and they ask you if they're Canadian. They don't think you're Canadian, but they're worried if you are, and they get it wrong, they'll offend you. So they go, "Are you Canadian?" I don't know, but
so are Irish very offended by being called Scottish?
I don't know if they do as much, but I wouldn't say so. No, like we like each other. We're friends, Irish and Scottish. Yeah, we're so similar. We're cousins. So.
What I found interesting is, I went to Ireland and we went all over Ireland and they'd be like, oh, have you been to Dublin? And I'd be like, oh yeah, Dublin's really cool. I fucking hate Dublin. You're like, really? Why? Oh, I've never been there. Like, what? Okay, wait, you hate Dublin, but you've never been there. Oh, if I went to the pub, I wouldn't know anybody. It's just like, okay. But I found that hilarious that they fucking hated anyone from Dublin, hated Dublin, but they had never been there.
Funny.
Like everybody said the same thing. And they also, what I found hilarious is they all could understand me and I went with my first husband and no one could understand a word he said. I literally had to be the translator for him. They could not, like nothing. It was like he was speaking a completely
he was Kiwi?
foreign language. Yeah, he's Kiwi. It was like a foreign language. It was hilarious.
I suppose it's like the town mouse and the country mouse as well. And in New Zealand, like people, as soon as you go outside of Auckland, they hate Auckland.
That's true.
They talk about it the same way.
They call us Jaffers. Jaffa means just another fucking Aucklander. That's what, I've had people call me a Jaffer to my face. And I'm like, I'm American. And they're like, that's worse.
Did you punch them in the boob?
Oh, I was in some little town getting something and someone said it behind me and I turned around and I said, I'm American, not a Jaffa. They were like, that's worse. I was just like, fuck you.
Kick them in the fanny. That's what I would do.
Kick him in the fanny. Well, in America, that means butt. And here, that means pussy. So anyways,
That's what I meant, vagina. Kick him in the vagina. So secondly, it gets me thinking.
Oh, he still hasn't finished. So sorry. Oh, no. See, he can't finish. He can't even finish his letter. Maybe
to be fair, it's
him.
Because we're being selfish and it's all about us when it's his letter. See, we're another selfish partner for him.
I think maybe he has some kind of subconscious theme that nobody cares about what he has to say or his needs. I don't know.
It could be.
Maybe. I don't know.
And it plays out. So he does role rather well as usual. As the man gets his job done, he just stays disinterested. He doesn't want to fucking continue. I've yet to meet someone that actually wants to go the distance with me. So you're dating cunts. Now, to clarify, I'm not talking hours. I'm talking like more than 15 minutes. So you're not saying I need 4 hours to have a good time. You're saying, can we please just not be done in 5 minutes? Can we please take 15 minutes?
Hello.
I mean, that would be ideal.
So selfish. That's so selfish to want to fucking...
Just think how much like skin to skin time you get in a 5-minute hookup versus 15, 20 minutes, it's going to be so much better for your body, so much better for your health. We should want that time. But then again, hookup culture and porn and all of that stuff means that men are used to getting off really quickly. And so, yeah, it's probably harder to find men that are willing to spend that time. So he continues, physical stimulation is important to me. And if there's a moment where I feel like we're just reenacting a porno, I'll get disinterested really fast.
Isn't that still physical stimulation?
No, I think, because see, pornos are all about how things look, right?
Yeah.
So they don't always do the good moves. It's not always physically stimulating. It might just look good to the observer. And
like what moves are those? Like, tell me, Daryl. So I don't watch gay porn, so I wouldn't know.
You do so. I've watched this in a.
I do so. Is that what you told me? Well, not men gay porn.
No, I don't think it's about gay porn or straight porn. I think it's about porn itself. And I just remember this one time. I won't go into any details, but one time I was with a guy.
One time at band camp, yeah.
One time at band camp, and I was just like, I just realized something, and I was like, in my head, there's no camera. Who are you trying to face? And he was all like positioned, like trying to make his body look good and angled and stuff like while we're making out. And I'm like, I mean, maybe there was a camera, and I don't know. Give it shit.
Sudden light bulb moment.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Oh
God. Oh no. We'll have a look online. If we can find it, we can get it taken down, because I'm European also, so there's a law against that. There's this thing where people learn how to have sex from porn, right? So they try to replicate what they see in the porn movies, gay or straight. And what's happening is they're not doing what's pleasurable for their partner. They're doing what looks good for the camera. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that they're about is, yeah. So I don't know if this is what he's saying. I just feel like we're reenacting a porno. I get disinterested really fast. So yeah, obviously it seems familiar as to what he's seen in pornography.
Well, I think both sexes can be guilty of that. They are, like, some women do that. They just basically act like they're in a porno and it's just, well, and also
what's that like? I don't know.
Oh, just like riding on top and screaming and yelling. I think the thing that gets me about porn and most porn is it's really all very male centered, right? And so it's the woman giving the guy a blowjob, and then it's the guy just pounding the woman, and he doesn't go down on her or do anything to warm her up, and then he doesn't even touch her clitoris while they're having sex. I know you're probably going to vomit in your mouth a little bit, Daryl.
No, that doesn't bother me.
But it's like, it's training men to be terrible in bed.
Well, that's exactly, I think that's what he's saying. I think that's what's happening. It's training men to be rubbish, and then men go out and have sex, and we wonder why they're so shit. I was speaking to a friend of mine, and she was like, oh yeah, I watch gay porn. And I'm like, oh, I've heard that's common now for straight women to watch gay porn. She goes, no. I watch woman on woman porn. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Okay. And she's like, but it's because I want to see the intimacy. I want to see that bonding, and I want to see a woman being pleasured, and you don't get that in straight porn. So I'm watching the lesbian porn to watch women getting pleasured. And that makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Well, I think, and you are the one who actually taught me this, is that men get excited when they see penises and women get excited when they see vaginas being stimulated, right? And, you know, all it's the whole point of view porn.
Yeah, it's a point of view. That's it. All men get stimulated by penises, which brings us back to or aroused, let's say, by seeing a penis, because it's competitive, right? And another penis that's erect, they're like, oh, if they're straight, they're in competition with that. If they're gay, oh, I want a bit of that. But
if they're seeing someone get a blowjob or something, it's like they can imagine it's them getting a blowjob or them having sex, or I think it's that type of thing. They're going to relate to that more than just eating and pussy. So that's their favorite thing to do, and that's what gets them off more than anything.
Well, exactly. So I suppose that's why there's so many flavors of porn cream. So secondly, so to continue, he says this, it gets me thinking, are we just achieving ejaculation? Is that the end goal, especially in a culture that essentially is to fuck first and then obtain emotion after? Well, you've said a lot there, and I think that's a good question that you should be asking your sexual partners. Like, if that's what's happening, especially if you see them more than once, is that all we're trying to do? Like, are we just fucking, are we just getting off? And secondly, that seems to be the culture. And like, I'm guilty of that as well. I can't claim any innocence, that I will tend to meet somebody by meeting them in a club, maybe having a bond or a connection or something like that. But I met my partner on a night out. We went home together at the end of the night, and
Did you?
Yeah. Did I never tell you that?
Did you? Oh, maybe you did. I think you did.
Yeah, I went.
Well, that's men.
Yeah, I hadn't even spoken to him when I kissed him. I just walked up to him. I was sober, and I thought, he's cute, I'm going to kiss him. And I kissed him, and he kissed me back.
And how many years later? And
we've been together 3 years now, and that's normal. And not saying I did that every weekend. I almost never went out, actually. I just saw somebody, and when we started talking, I was like, ooh, Argentinian, perfect. So it helps that he's super cute. But we got the emotional connection later. But also, I think you can tell a lot about somebody by their body language, by their, like, if you're seeking emotional connection by fucking, I think good luck, it's random. But if you're seeking emotional connection and you go out, I do think you can tell somebody that's warm. I do think you can tell somebody that's nice by their body language, by how they look at you, how they talk to you. So I'm just trying to defend myself there. And I certainly saw that. You've met my partner, and he is super warm and lovely.
Oh, yeah. And I think the thing is that you were looking for a relationship. You weren't looking to just hang out. I guess I think for this guy, he should be just very clear. That's what he needs before he fucks people.
You just stop fucking them unless you're getting that connection. Just don't do it.
What I find amazing to me is people are like, oh, well, I don't want to talk about it with them. They'll complain about their sex life and with their partner. And I'm like, oh, well, have you told them that? Or have you said what you need? Oh, well, I'm too embarrassed. I'm like, but you're okay to take off your clothes and fuck them. But you can't say, hey, this is what I need. And this is what I would like in bed. And what do you want? What do you like? Like, there's a lot of fucking duds out there. You guys need to up your game, is all I have to say.
I'd never thought about it that way, but you are so right. They're able to get naked and have sex, but then they can't talk about it. But you know what? I can just visualize it. I'm imagining that conversation on a first date, and I think it would be seen as shameful. Like, well, why do you need this conversation? Is there something wrong? And like he's referred to in the beginning, like he referred that maybe there's something wrong with him. The other guys are okay. But I think flip it.
I think something's right with him and wrong with fucking everybody else.
Yes, I agree. I agree 100%. I think you should be able to have an emotional connection, and it should be okay to require one before sex.
Exactly. And be okay. Really, it's about confidence and setting boundaries, isn't it? If you're confident and you go, this is what I need, and it shows that you really respect yourself and you're open about stuff. And if someone doesn't want to have that conversation with you, well, don't fuck them. It's very simple.
Yeah, and if it doesn't matter if they kick and scream and have a tantrum, don't fuck them. Just say, fuck yourself, because it sounds like you actually require this, right? Like, whether you call it demisexual or whether it's not, there's nothing wrong with you. You want an emotional connection. You're not going to enjoy yourself unless somebody's actually interested in you and your body and pleasuring you. So find these people and stick with them, because there'll be plenty of them. And screw all the other people. Like, don't physically screw them, obviously. So he said, that's very indicative of the gay culture. Surely I can't be the only one that experiences this. I'm not even going into kinks. I find myself talking to guys, setting up that they obviously want to move faster than what I really give a shit about, because I always know the end result is going to be to dissatisfaction from my part. So in advance, and that was like an awful long sentence, but you see there that you're speaking to guys and you're already thinking that they're wanting to move fast, or they've told you they want to move fast and you don't. You know that you're not going to be satisfied, so you just go with it anyway. It's like, why don't you stop right there? When you're aware that you're talking to these guys that just want to fuck and just want to get off, and you're not going to be satisfied, just stop right there. Stop right there. Don't go any further.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a big problem with a lot of people is that, they're having sex with people too fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing is that, I don't know if this is true for men, but I think if you are receiving and exchanging bodily fluids, let's just put it that way, what they found with women when they do like blood work, it's like a lot of women had male DNA in their blood. And
That's some powerful sperms.
well, and what they find or what they believe is that you actually are absorbing people's DNA and it's becoming part of yours. And they did some study with like fruit flies, and they found that like there was actually with like that the firstborn children would have DNA, or maybe it was like secondborn to another father or something, that the DNA was also like mixed with whoever they had been with before. Not sure how they did that with fruit flies, but I think that's the thing. Like they found this with women, though, is that they would have male DNA, even if they had never been pregnant or had only had female children. And like those were the only pregnant, they hadn't had miscarriages. And so they found that what women are doing is that we're actually absorbing the DNA from men. And so you really want to think about whose DNA is getting up inside of you, right?
I'm skeptical about that because I can't imagine the mechanism, but it's even if it's not a genetic reality, which it very well may be, energetically, at least, yeah. Like, do you want to be absorbing this guy's juju? Whether it's his energy, his viruses that are in his sperms, his DNA affecting your DNA, like, do you really want it? And thinking about that before you do it, because whether or not human beings are meant to be monogamous or poly or whatever, it seems like when we have multiple partners for no reason, that trouble happens, even if that's just STDs.
They're fine. Yeah. So 21% of women, male microchimerism was found in 21% of women overall.
Microchimerism? Microchimerism.
Yes. Is that right? Microchimerism?
Really?
Their categories. Male DNA gets into women's brain. Scientists find male DNA lurking in women's brain. Women just suck that male DNA right up into there.
So when they say he fucked my brains out,
yeah.
Where are these 21% of women putting that penis?
It's interesting.
And how do they know that it's in their brain? Like, how do they test this? Send me that. I want to read that.
Here's the thing. Why male DNA is often found inside women's brains. Let's try to open it. Yeah,
see, from my understanding, we don't cut open women's brains and look in it.
Well, obviously. Well, they do if they are studying the brain afterwards.
Yeah.
Presence of genetic material, exchange between the fetus and mothers during pregnancy. But they're saying it most likely is due to that. But the medical implications of male DNA and male cells in the brain are unknown. But it looks like, yeah. But they also link the phenomenon to autoimmune disease and cancer.
Yeah, because they're looking for something that can't be undone with lifestyle and a healthy environment. They're looking for a pathogenic cause for those things. And so I think they're stretching there. It could be that the DNA migrates, if I can put it this way, if DNA can migrate to the brain from a fetus, then why couldn't DNA from a male migrate to the brain from the uterus and after sex?
You absorb it.
So yeah, it absolutely could be. So being careful, he finishes with this.
He's still going. He does take a long time. I'm sorry. No.
Because we are being his selfish partners right now. He says, because essentially when they finish, I'm left and they're going, cool. What's happening now? So he asks, do I need to process more? Do I need to psychoanalyze all this? Do I need to unpack my trauma? It's definitely a thought-provoking situation. Let me know your thoughts. Okay, well, no, I don't think he needs to unpack this. Well, I mean, that's what he's doing, right? I suppose. But I don't think do you have a problem that needs to be psychoanalyzed? I think you're just
well, unless he
has
been traumatized. So I've definitely worked with quite a few men that just can't have an orgasm, or it's very rare for them to be able to have an orgasm with another person, and they almost always were molested.
And then maybe that's why he's asking. So if that's the case, but then I've worked with guys, and I don't know if you've noticed this theme, that it's often they're on certain medication.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of medication that stops guys having an orgasm. Question, are you on medication? And could that be a side effect? That's something to ask your GP or whoever prescribed the medication, because that could
antidepressants especially.
Antidepressants, yeah.
Yeah.
And But even still, like, even if you are on medication and that's part of what's causing you to take more than 15 minutes, then again, I think normal. Just be with a guy who's nice, who's not a dickhead. On the other hand, is there trauma? Was there molestation? Was there abuse? Was there an incident at some time in your life? Don't go looking for it if you don't think it's there. We can create things just by looking. But if you're aware of that, or there's something that you're thinking could have happened, then go and see a good psychologist. Go and sit down with somebody, a counselor, somebody that can talk you through that and help you to analyze it. But really, I'm that wouldn't, as a hypnotherapist, that's not my first place to go. Because even though that trauma's there, it's acting on the premise that there's something wrong with you that we need to investigate and fix it so that you can perform properly in bed. Whereas I think it doesn't hurt to clear trauma when it's there. If there's been abuse or molestation, that should be cleared anyway, right? That should be reframed in your brain and healed and whatever you need to do. But on the other hand, you're not broken. Like, this is not normal. You're not saying that my penis falls off when I think about boys or girls. You're saying, if people aren't interested in me, I don't enjoy it. Well, great. Have you ever been on a date and someone doesn't want to talk to you? They just want to talk about themselves the whole time. They want to talk about their food. Then, yeah, it's a bit like that. If somebody's interested in you, they ask questions. They want to know about you. They want to take you to, like last night, I wanted to take my partner out for one of our first dates since we had the puppy. Finally, we're like confident to leave him home. It's like, yeah, I could go out, and we usually have Thai or Indian. That's my favorite, and they're close. But I researched and found like a fine dining Italian. That's his favorite. Let's go somewhere that you liked, because I want to watch him eating it. And when he's eating it, I'm not like just like getting off watching him eat food. But I want to watch him. I want to see a smile on his face when he goes, "This is really good pasta. It reminds me of home." I wanted to hear him talking about his mum's pasta when he was a kid. He's from an Italian family. I wanted him to give me his opinion on whether it was good or not. And I wanted him to have a meal that he enjoys. That's because I love him and I care about him. But you don't have to love someone. That's what I would be like on a first date. It's exactly the same. If you want your partner to enjoy the date, you have an interest in them. You ask about them. And it sounds like you're dating dishes, or you're sleeping with dishes. So there's nothing wrong with you wanting someone to take an interest in you, caring about you. That's being a normal human.
Exactly. And just because that's the norm doesn't mean it's right for you, or there's something wrong with you because that's not your thing.
There was a time when it was the norm to beat your wife up, or to beat her if she didn't do what you told her. Did
or
that
to
make
be able
it
to
right?
rape her.
Yeah, that doesn't make that right. And so this might be the norm in the gay community, maybe, or maybe in your friend group, or maybe in life in general, or your age group, who knows? It doesn't make it what's right for you. Everyone's different. And what you're asking for is a basic human need for connection in the way that you connect. And I think just maybe be a bit more discerning and find the people that you can connect with.
100%. Yeah. Don't fuck dickheads.
Don't fuck dickheads. And look, I'm trying to, if you're in New Zealand, I've got some friends I would recommend to you, but you're in Australia, so good luck. There's lots of lovely guys in Australia. I used to love going there when I was single and trying to find a husband so that I could emigrate there, but it didn't work out. So.
See, you're just jealous.
Of what?
Sorry, be mean.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's just accept that about yourself and put it out there. Just be open about it. And if someone's not interested and they just want, to me, to have a bad sexual encounter is way worse than not having one at all.
And I think it's the angle that you take as well. Like, if you're having these conversations, or if you're being brave and putting it out there, don't go from an angle of, is it okay? Am I good enough for you because I want a connection? Flip that 180, go, this is what I require. I require an emotional relationship. I'm not interested in having sex without connection. Are you good enough for me? Are you going to give me that? Are you going to chat to me? Are you going to speak to me? Are you going to have a cup of tea? Because if you're not offering more than that, then no thanks. I don't want you. So like, really put yourself in that power situation. Never apologize for it. Don't just take it as you're the prize to be won. And if they're going to win you, then they're going to have to treat you right. They're going to have to give you that.
And men like a challenge. Especially, well, men you want to be with. Men that don't want a challenge are fucking lazy. And who wants to be with that?
Yeah, I think all men do. I think all
They
men
do.
like a challenge.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing I always tell women is like, just don't sleep with men right away. Men go on safari. If they shoot something in the first 5 minutes, they're so disappointed. They want to feel like they've earned it. And I think that, yeah, it sounds to me like you're looking for a connection. You're looking for a relationship, and be upfront, and you're going to weed out all the fucking like bad lovers. And that's a good thing.
And if you're meeting these guys through sex apps or sex websites, get off them. It might be more difficult, might take longer, but be more discerning. I'm not presuming that's what you're doing. Could be a nightclub, could be in your job, who knows? But
Put it on it. I'm looking for a relationship. This may be Grindr, but I don't want to hook up. You're going to vet out the guys that do.
Yeah.
I bet you'll get a much higher quality type of person.
Definitely. Unless you're like in Uluru and there's only like 3 other guys, and then it's going to be tough. But yeah.
I'm assuming he's not I can never say that word. Uluru.
I don't know. Are we allowed
What
to
did
say
it used to be called? The big rock? The big red rock in the middle?
I don't know if we're allowed to say its old name anymore.
Oh, are we not? Oh, well, I don't even know what it is. So yeah, but pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's beautiful.
Well, we've talked a lot about that.
Yeah, so there we go. I hope this helps. I hope that helps you, and anybody that's listening that's had a similar situation. I hope that's helpful. Anything else before we say goodbye? Do you have any books you want to recommend this week?
For gay sex? No. Not off the top of my head. Now, there's lots of shows and advice. We should do another one. I was thinking we should do a mini little podcast where we just literally give, like, read this book, watch this show, and vet that.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that separate. So we can finish up tonight. I've got some books to recommend, but I'll save them for another podcast.
And if you have any questions or you want us to discuss for a very long time, a short question,
then write to us.
Write to us. We're happy to help. wtfstoriesandadvice@gmail.com. And share this podcast and give us a review, and that helps other people listen to us. So, yeah. Bye.
Bye.